we're just going to get straight into it. We're recording a few minutes after the conclusion of the NBA Finals. LeBron won his fourth ring, his fourth Finals MVP. And so there's nowhere else that we can start besides that.
Yeah. I mean, my big takeaway is just how fun this playoffs was, honestly. I know there's a ton of stuff we can get into about the Lakers, LeBron, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, all these different guys. But I think we should just start. I think the place to start is talking about how cool it has been to like watch this from the bubble. I've had so much fun these last couple of months taking it all in, like when it started, I was not sure it was going to work. And like they emerged with such a great product. But yeah, exactly, for a variety of reasons. And they emerged with such a great product. I just thought it was a great time. So
yeah, I mean, first of all, like the NBA, no positive tests. I mean, that's just incredible. If you'd have asked me like what the odds of that were before this started, I would have bet you anything, like any amount of money. I mean, that's incredible. Like the quality of play was really good. Even like the early scrimmage games at the very beginning, teams are ready to play. I mean, obviously, even though the playing games, the seeding games, whatever they were called, Portland made those really fun. I mean, every team besides like Washington maybe, and like New Orleans, but like most teams, it didn't seem like the quality was any less than there was a bit of more scoring, but if anything, I thought it made guys honestly play with a different level of urgency because they couldn't rely on the fans to keep them going. They had to sort of band together themselves. Plus, I mean, again, they're they slept in the same place every day. So it seems
I was gonna say with no travel, it makes it so much easier to have fresher legs, and you're not like dragging yourself across the country.
Exactly.
That's definitely gonna get more energy, make it easier to move around the court and score and things like that. So
yeah, well, we always hear guys talk too about like when they're on like a road trip, they're like without their families, and so they can bond because they just have to spend more time together. And so this was that on steroids, obviously. So it was really cool. And then now we should get into the LeBron aspect of this, because I mean everyone's going to get into that, but
the evil empire,
the evil empire, exactly.
From our perspective, of course.
Exactly.
I mean, look, I just tweeted about this, but just like I will never be a Lakers fan, I will never be a LeBron fan, but this has been I have a lot of respect for this whole run and this whole journey. It's been a really good time. It's been a tough competitive playoffs, and for them to emerge from it and I think clearly the best team in a non-fluke situation, even though obviously you can raise some questions about is this a harder championship than normal, is this an easier championship than normal, but at the same time it was so competitive and so exciting that for them to come out of it with the win, the way they just came out tonight and said, we're ending it, this is over tonight, we're not messing around, and just turn on the offense, and I think particularly the defensive intensity tonight gave me a lot of respect. So
yeah, I know it sort of reminded me of some of like the KD Steph Warrior teams when they can just flip the switch whenever they want.
I thought the exact
same thing, which is really impressive. And as good as even the Clippers were, they can whenever they tried to flip the switch, and maybe because they didn't have the right habits, but whenever they tried to flip the switch, the car wouldn't turn on sometimes. And I think the Lakers, for whatever reason, when they wanted to take it up a notch, I think there was nothing that anyone else could do. And again, just to hammer down like the LeBron aspect of this, and we'll look at it from every angle. But again, before tonight, only one player in history had ever had more than 3 Finals MVPs. That was MJ. And now, I mean, to be one of only 2 guys with 4 Finals MVPs, to me, that's cements LeBron as the second greatest player of all time.
I'd agree.
We'll talk about what it's going to take for him to get to the number 1 spot.
Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of instantly do like sort of an instant reaction in terms of best player of all time, legacy kind of steps, because it happens so fast. I think like those bigger picture discussions, they have to involve taking some time, sitting back for like weeks and even months after the season ends and the champion's been crowned and all that stuff. You have to take time and sort of evaluate not just what's immediately happened, but the entire history. But with that being said, I do think 4 titles, 4 Finals MVPs, all the stats, all the previous runs and everything. I do think LeBron's probably number 2 of all time at this point. As for the comparison, it takes more time. But go ahead.
So the one thing I want to just to approach it from that angle, and I'm curious to ask your thoughts first, because I saw our friend of the show, I'd like to say Jason McIntyre. Other guys say LeBron, he's won his third Finals MVP with his third different team, as if to sort of amplify it. And I'm like, I don't mean, does it make it more or less impressive? Because I mean, I don't want to like this is LeBron's night. He was great the whole finals and the whole postseason. But does it really make it more impressive if you do it with more like multiple teams? Because that's sort of being used. Like people didn't switch teams in the '90s. Like that's not, you can hold that against MJ because he didn't switch teams. Like to me, it doesn't make it more impressive to switch teams. If anything, it makes it, you're constantly able to like readjust, the odds to stack in your favor. I mean, look, hey, let's go with that first. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I will say I'm pretty much along the same lines as you, but I think it's like one is like an A+ with 6 pluses in front after it, and the other is an A+ like 5 pluses in front of it. Where like it's 3 Finals MVPs, and three titles. Okay, let's forget Finals MVP just because the way that's sort of been politicized in the right word, but the way that award has been framed, I guess, and discussed. I don't think it's fair to talk about it. But 3
misgiven.
Yeah, exactly. But 3 or 4 titles, titles where you're clearly the best player on the team each time is remarkable, no matter what team you're on.
Yeah.
But I do think that constantly being on one team and constantly being the center of that team, rather than kind of going to different places and rebuilding and moving around, I would give the slight edge to that. But I mean, I'm not going to like, point of criticism to.
No, I know, but I just,
Go ahead.
I just didn't like, he's done it on 3 different teams. Like, okay, I mean, so what? I mean, that's great. Not so what, but again, to just, if we're going to nitpick, I mean, to me, it's more impressive to do it in the same place because you weren't able to just, restack the deck or reload it. You have to constantly, it's much harder to, stay in the same place, try and climb that mountain, in that type of way. And again, look, LeBron and KD, it's changed the era. Like, I get it. We're living in a different time. But again, I also want to point out one other thing. Well, there's no asterisks, like we said, but you'll notice, right? Bam Adebayo was injured, out for most of the series. Goran Dragic, out for most. So it's probably, let's just say, probably the second and third best player. Tyler Hero, but he was kind of choppy. But Bam and Dragic, their second and third best player. They missed most of the series. And what did Jimmy do? He pushed him to 6 games. So by the LeBron logic, LeBron did the same thing in 2015. He was without his second and third best players and pushed this great team to 6 games. But you're never going to hear Jimmy get the same credit that LeBron did. And I'm not going to say that Jimmy's the same level of player as LeBron is, because that would obviously be ludicrous. But the propping up of LeBron for that accomplishment, I think, is almost as warranted. I think the 2015 Warriors are about on the level of this year's Lakers team. And Jimmy's going to get no love, and it's not going to be spoken about. And just that double standard just bugs me. I mean, LeBron clearly the better team, benefited from injury luck, and just no one's going to say anything. And again, Jimmy pushed the better team, to 6 games without his 2 best players, just like LeBron did in 2015. But no one's going to point it out. But which I just want to point that out. Jimmy should totally get his credit. To me, he's got to be a top 10 player at this point. That just when you play the way you did in the finals, you just are. But yeah, I just wanted to point the 2015 to this year, 2020 sort of hypocrisy and the double standard and the way the media is going to just kind of tuck one away and then prop the other one up was just something that I noticed a little bit. It's a little bit irritating.
Well, no, I mean, and you at some point on this show, now is probably not the right time, but at some point you probably need to have your own little sort of mini rant or field piece on LeBron's 2015 finals. We've talked about that a lot off camera, and you would certainly have some thoughts on that. So we'll let you do that sometime.
But do you think it's an apt like kind of comparison or double standard kind of?
I
like looking at that.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of that one. I gotta look at the numbers, go back, revisit the context, everything. I'm not gonna make any snapshots on that. But that's definitely a discussion we can have at some point.
But is it at least in the same ballpark, like second and third best players, like missing, Yeah,
I think there's an element of it for sure. I mean, I think you have to give the edge to Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero at least a little bit over, Matthew Dellavedova and Iman Shumpert. But
of course.
But I do see what you're saying. Oh no, Jimmy Butler's been so much fun. It's been cool because there was all this talk about he's a locker room cancer and he's like not good for team chemistry and all these reports.
I was one of those people who said that. So I
Constantly
totally
getting into things in Chicago and Minnesota and Philly, and now he's in Miami, and things, as far as I could tell, we're going great there, and being the centerpiece of a team and leading them to the finals was really cool to see. It was sort of a thing of he needed to find his fit, he needed to find his place, and and Miami really worked out for him, and that's great because the team surrounded him with pieces that worked really well, and it seemed like he was really having fun playing basketball, and that wasn't always something I could say about him in the past. So
yeah, well, I also think it's a reminder of how much situation matters.
Yep.
Especially again, we always talk about like this draft pick was a bust. This guy was a huge success, but a lot of it depends on where you end up, where you go. I mean, you don't have a lot of shots on the the upcoming NBA draft, but it's a lot of it. It's going to depend on where these guys goes, and so obviously Jimmy
thing too.
Yeah,
because it's a circular thing because incompetent franchises get the best draft picks and then draft players, and the incompetence leads to busting, and which leads to more high draft picks, leads to more bad draft decisions.
Exactly.
The whole thing. So
that's why it's so hard to flip the cycle and turn it around. That's why both of us have a ton of respect for Mark Jackson. Yep. Even though he wasn't the right coach to take the Warriors from good to great like Steve Kerr was, but he was the right coach and had the right personality to really turn them around from being crap to good and competitive and relevant. I think that's in some ways that's like a harder job than to go from good to great. There's an argument to be had for that. I would need to think more about it. But I just wanted to point out the Jimmy LeBron sort of double standard. And then look, and I know we've already said this, but LeBron deserves every accolade, everything that he's going to get. This is not an asterisk season, in my opinion.
No.
Was it like an insanely like just? Was it like is more tough of a title than like any other one? Like I don't think so. I know people are saying, oh, you had to be in the bubble, like it's really hard. Like okay, I get that, but again, you're in a like a mental health being in the same place is hard. I get it, but you're in a resort with like fishing. You can go bike ride, like, and I get it. I know it's not. I'm not trying to do it, but it's not.
And play,
exactly.
Country in 2 days,
and like I get it. Being away from your families is, I'm sure, like I get it. Like let's not like make it out to be some insane. Plus the other thing too, no one else had the opportunity to be in the bubble, so we're not going to. It's one thing to treat the Lakers championship as legitimate because every other team this year had to, was under the same circumstances, but we shouldn't elevate them over previous title years because other teams like the Warriors, the Bulls, whoever, Celtics, Spurs, they didn't have the opportunity. So to me, it's not, a unique circumstance. It's fine to level it out because of this year, the circumstances were level, but it's not fair to me to elevate it, because when applying it through previous years, obviously it's not level. So.
Right. Yeah. No. Every team was dealing with, but every team this year.
Exactly. So it's a regular title to me. Like great accomplishment.
Personally, I would back on the same level as
exactly.